and welcome to North Pole High School's training video on how to use a compound miter saw. This is not your normal chop saw, as it can cut two different angles at once, the vertical and horizontal change. Before you start, you want to make sure you have all personal protective equipment that you will need for this, that being safety glasses, and make sure you have no loose clothing, and long hair is put away safely. The other thing you want to do before you get started is to inspect the board that you're going to be cutting. Check for nails, screws, and staples, and remove those using the appropriate tools. Before you make a cut, the saw will most likely be in its stowed position. To take it out of its stowed position, pulling the pin in the back will not do the job. You have to press down on the saw, then the pin will become easier to pull and put it back to its relaxed position. When cutting a board on the miter saw, you want to make sure that it is flush with the supports in the back and that the supports are doing their job. Behind the support on the left is an adjustable knob you can loosen and tighten to slide into position. Please make sure the support is tight prior to cutting. If you're cutting a short board, these are just fine, but if the board gets a little bit longer, you might want to use the supports on the outside so your board doesn't fall to the ground or it doesn't affect your cut as the board is breaking and going through. So if you slide it out, you notice this support is too high. Down on the bottom is a knob you can adjust to get it to the appropriate height. You want your board to be flush with the bottom on both sides. When making a regular chop saw cut, push it to the desired location, and since this is 90 degrees, you can hold on either side, preferably the longer side in this case. Let the saw run for a couple seconds and get up to speed before you start cutting, and slide it down all the way through and stop the saw and release the blade before you pick it back up, like this. This is a straight 90-degree cut. All the dust, or some of the dust, has been swept into the bag at the back. So let's get into how this is better than a regular chop saw. You can cut at several different angles and as this rotates. So you'll notice there's two knobs in the front. One of them is the lock, and one of them is the release to change the angle. If you're going to make a mitered cut, you want to make sure it is in the upright position, and you lift this knob on the bottom that's hidden to slide the saw into its location. I'm going to be making a 45-degree cut here. You'll also notice it will slide and lock into certain spots. These spots are called detents, and that if you want to make sure that it's 45, there is a detent set for that measurement. Now you'll notice that the saw is now cutting at a different angle. Since the saw is going this direction, you want to try and support your board on the opposite side of the direction that the saw is moving. So since the saw is coming this direction, I'm going to support my board away from the saw blade on this side, and I'm going to use activate the saw with my left hand, even though it is my non-dominant hand. We have a beautiful 45-degree cut. If you'd like to change the other angle that you're cutting, I'm going to go back to 90. There's a knob in the back here that you can loosen and shift the saw to the degree of your choosing. Again, since the saw blade is traveling this direction, this time I'm going to stand and support on the left side and use my right hand to support the saw blade. We now have an interesting angled cut. I don't know what this board is going to be used for, but it's not much. Okay, so I've shown you how to use the different angles on the saw. When you're finished using the saw, Make sure that all angles are set back to 0. And that the saw is put back and locked into its stowed position and unplugged. And if you've got the time, grab a broom and sweep up the pieces that you missed on the floor. Thank you for watching, and hope you make something awesome.